everything. That's gone.
Okay, I started recording, and that's the first thing you say. Yes, I said the hell word. So
Yeah.
tonight we're going to talk about. I thought we should talk about, as old horde veterans of the modernist art world.
Sure. Yeah.
Try to explain to the layman the tiers and the intricacies of actually being in a modernist artist and what they consider good, and their whole little world that they get into, and how, like, just try to briefly from their perspective understand, as we do, what they consider good and bad and why, and obviously encompass it all in the end with explaining why they're complete idiots and it's a waste of time.
Oh yes.
And also maybe at the end we can talk about your experience in animation, because you were saying you had some experience there. Maybe we'll bring that up at the end too.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so first of all, let's say, so you had more experience than me. You were having these shows with Banksy and all these people.
Sure.
So you were you were into it then, right? You were for a time, and even still a little bit, you sort of are in that world more than I would be. You would understand the machinations of it, yes? Which not
of course, yeah. Especially the aesthetics of modern art and the mechanisms in which they use to dictate what's going to be successful in the genre, or even in the community. Yeah.
Yeah, so talk about that a bit, yeah. And I'll add what I know as well.
Well, tropes, like, that's most important. The tropes are most important. The celebrity art, the type of abstraction. It has to be obviously it has to be critical of traditional styles of render, things of this nature. That is very important.
Yeah.
When you're street art is another thing. Street art's its own beast, its own monster of abstraction.
Is that what you were doing, street art?
I would at least say I was in the same vein, as in, I showed with a lot of them, and I was pretty much in that milieu, because that's what was popular at the time, and you got to mince and mold with what's there.
Yeah. Sorry, I just plugged in my mic. I just realized it wasn't plugged in. Does it sound like this mic? Can you hear that?
You sounded fine the whole time, I think.
Did I? Because that was just straight to the laptop. Okay, well, whatever. As long as you can still hear me, it doesn't matter.
Good. Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, so you were doing street art. So that's like, I don't know, like, what does that even entail? Like graffiti and stuff like that? Or
well,
what?
I want to keep it legal here. I was commissioned to do murals.
Right.
For the most part. Yeah. Did lots of murals all around the country. Still have some up. I'm not going to tell where those are, because we have lots of friends.
Right. Okay.
But so I was commissioned to do murals. I did shows. I did collaborations, all sorts of things of that nature.
Right.
Festivals. So a little bit of graph, as they call it. Graffiti is a little more of a language and a way of repping your set, as they say, right?
Okay, what do you mean though? What do you mean by that exactly?
Well,
just that.
How
you go. You can.
I don't want to say it's a game of ego, but I want to say it's how good you are also correlates to how much representation you can get.
Right.
And, if you can even do certain cuts with the can and whatnot, people will think that, wow, this guy, he's probably been doing it for a long time, so therefore or they know your name. And if they know your name, then, obviously they're looking for you, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. So it has very little to do with the actual work. It's that sort of thing.
Well, it depends. I mean, there's some guys, yes, it definitely does. The newer guys have to be really good to get any kind of voice. They have to, they have more of a mechanism in which they will or type, is it typography? Would you even call it that? The way that they
Typography
put
is
their
the
name out.
what's that?
Yeah, the way that they put their name out, they have to.
The way they typify themselves, is that what you mean? They
Can control is what they would call it.
Okay.
If you have good can control, then you're going to get a lot more people.
Hand control for your tagging. Your
Yes.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Good. So you saw that world early on, and you saw easily the ways that you could. So you were sort of just kind of a shrewd guy in general. You could see probably the kind of guy that can get involved in anything and see the ways to mechanically go from A to B up the chain of command. Is that true? Probably.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
I'm assuming. I don't know.
Somewhat.
It's a random guess.
I sit on the outside and I'll watch and see how it's done. And then I'll jump in with the way in which I want to do it and where I want it to go. That's usually how I do it. I don't want to, be too braggadocious here, but yeah, it usually works.
yeah, good. Yeah, no, that's good. No, it's you're the kind of guy that walks in the room and clearly sees the the way to get the advantage.
Yeah.
I don't myself really work that way. I can be like that.
Sure.
Oh, was that me? Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear it.
Doesn't matter. It was a weird static noise. But generally I just like I'm obsessive about a purpose in my mind, and I just obsess over that. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't even care if I get success or
Sure,
which is not really to my benefit. But that would be more the way I think. So
a lot
I'm hearing an echo. I'm hearing a bit of an echo. Do you hear that, an echo all of a sudden?
No,
I'm hearing something. Yeah, I'm definitely hearing myself echo. Shit.
Interesting.
Shit. It stopped though. It stopped. Okay.
Hey, there we go.
I didn't do anything. Whatever. So what was I saying?
I would say the mechanism used to infiltrate and kind of, maneuver in the ideas that others are working within is subversive. I learned that behavior.
Yeah.
I learned by watching them as, the whole yeah. So I watch them. I watch how they subvert and they become at the top. And I just kind of gave it a shot myself. That's kind of where it's at.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you had great success with it, anyways. But like what I wanted to sort of get around too. I mean, that's sort of one aspect of it. But like, I often talk lately. I have for a while about how modernism is a trap for your mind. That you can say this about a lot of things. You can say it about anything that someone can potentially get into. That you can get. It's a world you can enter and not necessarily leave again. You could say the same of becoming a Satanist or a heroin addict or a communist. It's like, regardless of how the thing is and how it presents itself and what its ethos is and how stupid or good or valuable it is to begin with, based on its foundation principles, if enough people have come in and out of it, there'll be kind of a culture and a world you can enter, and you can see the great heroes of it and the great disasters of it, and you can get involved in it. And that can be said of literally anything. So in that sense, but the modernism is peculiar in that it's like, once you go into that mindset, very few come back out, or they can, like we did.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't really get into it. I kind of understood it, but I never was like, I don't want to play that game.
Yeah, sure.
It just doesn't go anywhere, because I could see that its foundational principles or its basic, what it does on the outside still is stupid. It's not worth it. It's not, you can enter that world and you can achieve within it, but you'll never make a lasting great thing like a great artist of old. Like that was my idea. And the same for, like I said, anything you can get into. You can become a class A heroin addict, or whatever.
Be right? A professional heroin addict. That's what I went
or whatever.
To.
Anything you can get into. It's like a world you can get trapped in if you get sucked in. So they have their little world, and they have their tiers of what they consider quality.
Right.
Which is maybe this part that's hard to explain, because, as you said, it has a lot to do with, it already is automatically just kind of social, or like who you know.
Mm-hmm.
Is your name recognized? Is your name out there already?
All of it's
like that's like, yeah, it's 70 5% of it more, maybe right there. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that's probably good. You definitely need to at least be maneuvering and creating ideas that other people think they can't think. It's that old adage of, I could have thought about that. Yeah, you didn't. That kind of thing. The whole modernist tripe swan song of that.
Yeah. It's kind of like the guy. There was a gallery show at the normal gallery. They were squeezing modernism in, and there was some guy. He had nothing but horizontal stripe paintings, and I think there was like one of his more recent ones. He was doing vertical stripes or something, and it's like, okay, so he's made this world. He's made, in his case, he's like made this world for himself. I mean, others have done that. He's not even doing anything new either. But like he's running on his own tier of what he considers amazing and excellent, and he's got so much, what's the word? Like balls, basically, to like, push it on everyone else as, look how amazing I am. He's all he's doing is painting stripes. But then you have to be outside of his. You have to be outside of his mindset to look in and with the amazement and say, okay, look, this is what you're doing is not is insane or stupid or it's a waste of time. But like from his point of view, he's achieving something, I guess.
Rebel heroes.
Perhaps I'm being too relative with this. I'm being very relativistic. You have to be to explain things like all around. But I'm just saying, in their world, this is what they think is great.
Yes, and another thing is the relativism is a concept that is how you would describe good modern art, is if it's relativistic, if it's subjectively experienced, where you look at it from eyes like ours who have objective, concise, logical preference. It's definitely a different style of critique that we would give, and obviously it'd be more emboldened and honest, brutal.
Well, we are say guys that wanted to originally or honestly get into art and then got sort of, at least in my case, I'm assuming you were sort of like then amazed by the realities of the art world and like, oh, so this is what you're doing and this is how you succeed in it. And it's like, it's a shock. And then it's like, you try to get into it. And at first you can feel like, I remember thinking there was something wrong with me because I didn't at first think it was that amazing. The performance artist in the art school standing there naked, smearing like shit on her armpits and saying, I'm doing this to represent the fact I can't fly. like, you fucking idiot. But so they are idiots as well. And they enter this world and the door, this is what I mean. The door slams behind them, especially with this kind of art attitude. So you can't get out again. It's the same with all our problems with the architecture and the rest of it. They can't get out of it again because you've entered a world where your tier of what is quality is, it's moved on from shock value. They don't care as much anymore about shock value, I don't think. Do you think? I don't know. No, it was just shock value. It was like, this is shit. This is even shittier. Oh, look at this. It's even worse. It's like, now they don't even care about that. It's just like they want to pump along. They're like grinding it along. And I don't even know what drives them exactly anymore. But they're in that world and they can't get out.
I think you have a good point about the entrapment, the mechanism in which they keep these people captivated by modernist ideals, aesthetics, ideology, this kind of stuff. I think that is very important. And moving forward, I think, it's gonna. They know for sure, the modernists. They know that the best critiques are going to be coming from people like us, that were that watched it, that were a part of it.
Do they know that? Really? I never thought of it like that.
I think there's what I say to people is I think there's a small intelligentsia that do realize that there are people that are going in and out, that leave, that are taking something with them,
Yeah. Okay. And nothing like it doesn't faze them or worry them, but
I think it does. I think it does. Oh yeah. Really? Yeah, I think they're very paranoid of it because they know that objective talent, I mean, it takes a lifetime to become a master,
Yeah.
So I mean, that's dedication. That is fanaticism.
Yeah.
No,
that's true. That's true. And there's probably many masters. There's masters as we speak we don't know about because they don't have that.
Absolutely.
First of all, they're rejected at every turn. And secondly, as you said, like you don't hear of anybody if their name is not there, if they can't get, if there's no system for them to become a part of and show their work. I mean, what's the point even of being a, I don't like the term realist. What do you call a painter who's not an abstract splatter painter? Anyways, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not even a world of illustration. There used to be they could go do advertisements and illustrations, but that's really good. The illustration stuff now, it's like
noodly arms.
Yeah,
yeah.
Which it's fine, but it's not. I don't know.
Sure, it's fine if you want to say it, Brendan. That's on you.
Well, it's pretty shit. Well, I mean, it's not like nothing inherently wrong with it exactly per se, except it's all the same. It's all there's so much. It's all like that now. If that was just like a little tiny niche of it, that'd be fine.
Mediocrity is almost worse, in my opinion.
Just as a little side note, I think I said this in my book. I'm obviously I hate Cubism, but there was everything has its slight pros and cons and its gray areas, and there was a good offshoot of illustration and animation in the 60s, which was inspired by
Cubism, yeah.
Yeah, but it was like those Pink Panther cartoons, or there was like old Disney or like 60s Disney cartoons.
Sure.
And it'd be sort of cubist looking the way they would do the little cartoons and animations, but it was like highly stylized and pretty cool. Like
the backgrounds were always neat. How they would do splashes of paint and then draw on top the splash of paint. I always thought that was very stylistic and interesting.
Yeah. It was stylistic. For something like that, it worked well.
Yeah,
it was just commercial art, let's say, and it was still like it wasn't just totally random, but you'd be like the outline of the building would be off from the actual inside color of the building, like it would be like slightly offset, and I don't know, it was a quirky thing that was much better than any actual Cubism as super intelligent painting, which was just not that amazing, and was part of our downfall or whatever.
Well, the idea of Cubism is kind of interesting because it's like the Thomas Aquinas, the multiple dimensions of the chair, where you set a chair in a room and then you view it from 1,000 different angles. You're going to see 1,000 different chairs. That was kind of the more I want to say that's a nicer way of putting Cubism if I were to do that.
No, but I don't think that is nice. I don't know if how much of that was like sort of after the fact or what they started to from the get-go, but it was also it's not that amazing a thing to get really into to represent in two-dimensional illusion of painting.
Sure.
Overall, I mean, it's okay. It's a quirky little thing, but
right.
Overall, it's kind of fine. Even say the likes of Picasso, if he wasn't this overtaking superstar best painter ever thing, it was just like a little guy in the corner and be like, okay, that's fine, but
right,
you can see it's used as a weapon kind of to
of course,
on its own maybe it's not inherently so bad, but I certainly don't find him that amazing.
Well, I think that you and I
sorry, go on. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that you and I both agree that it sucks and it's awful. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here because it's interesting to note that a lot of the abstractions came from industrialization and the inventions of photography and things of this nature. If you wanted to be nice about it, I would say, Impressionism, kind of like Monet and whatnot, is a very human way to do abstraction rather than the more jaunt, disgusting kind of detail that came with Braque and Picasso and what have you.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Impressionism. I've always said it's intensely good. Some of the best paintings I ever saw were Impressionist paintings I saw in Paris and Rome at these galleries.
Man.
And I think they were some of the best I ever saw. They were onto something, and it wasn't some far out thing. Those guys had skill beyond. That was a lifetime of skill in some of those things.
Absolutely.
I don't think Van Gogh was the master of Impressionism either. He had some good ones, but there was way better than him.
Sure.
So they make him the folk hero. Like I said, these guys say Van Gogh, Picasso, I think was a con. I think he somehow realized he could sort of just do a half finished painting and sell it. Some of his most famous works, it looks like it literally took him less than a day, anyways.
Yeah.
And he must have been loving that. And I can see his little face, little photos of him, his little conniving face. And I just think, oh, you're a little con artist. He should have been like a fishmonger in the Mediterranean or something. Not this world famous pop star.
Yeah.
but yeah, so some of it's kind of okay, and some of the things they started turned out kind of okay, but like these are the best examples. So there's like, you know, Impressionism is great. Expressionism was the first abstract painting, and some of it was sort of okay, but it really was from the get-go with Kandinsky just kind of like, oh,
yes,
you know, let's be totally random. And
well,
there's no way to do that without sort of kicking the guy who works hard in the face, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I believe in, you know, there must have been people in the past, right through the distant past, who tried stuff like this. Maybe there wasn't, but I would assume it's something like it happened along the way through all those many centuries of excellent master art, and the art guilds keep preserving the sanctity of the methods.
Right.
And so they just didn't tolerate it, and they saw the both sides of the coin where we don't see, which is that fine, you can open that little can of worms,
right,
and go into that mindset, the labyrinth from which you can't get out, but let you do it at the expense of the guy who works his whole life to master the illusion of painting to a, you know, level of a impressionist or Rembrandt and so forth.
Sure.
You know, that it ruins it for that guy, especially when you take it to the level we have now with the money laundering and the all blue canvas by Bernard Newman is selling for 44 million or whatever. It's just blue canvas.
But
44 million, for God's sake.
Bro, have you gone this far in front of the painting though? Because that's when you get the, oh man.
Oh,
have
the
you
texture,
heard that one?
Yeah, the texture,
have you heard that one? I did that one time. I went to LACMA, I think, and they had a 40-foot Mark Rothko, or it was the modern art exhibit in downtown LA or something. And they had a 40-foot Mark Rothko, and people were like, dude, you got to stand this far in front of it. It's all consuming, bro. I'm just like,
wow, yeah.
Neat. I can close my eyes. I'm consumed by darkness. You know?
Well, this is while you were practicing modern arts, though, too, right?
Oh,
you were
yeah,
doing your street art and stuff. So
sure.
So you always had a certain cynicism. Is that it? You were always like,
that's just what? My natural state. Always going to be that way, you know.
Okay. I'm
good. Just, yeah, dude. Since day one, I've been, you know, snickering in the dark, you know.
Okay, good, yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I actually went out and I studied these things when I was doing street art to try and understand the mechanisms that made it good or made it interesting. You know, I studied like Paul Klee and Jean Dubuffet and these guys. And,
for street art? Paul Klee for street art?
Oh yeah.
Just because he was like cartoony or?
Cartoony, abstract formation, ways, symbolism, highly, well, obviously it's there to be interpreted the way that you do, and of course that's always the excuse you can give people. It's like, but this is what it means to me, bro. Like, cool, buy it.
Wow.
Yeah, spend the money.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yes. So I suppose we sort of, so you agree then that it's a trap for the mind ultimately, and like, because obviously we get into it, and since we've been involved in it, you can't seem to get out again. Although it's kind of enforced, you know, culturally for other reasons as well. But it seems like generally, I mean, a lot of people do come out of it. A lot of people are cynical about it, even though they can't stop promoting it.
Sure.
Or being involved in it, they just still feel the cynicism. I remember I read an article by a guy. He was a sculptor, I think, and his sculptures were going into a prison.
Mm-hmm.
And in his interview about this happening, he was saying, "Oh, those poor prisoners! You know, this horrible modern art going up all over them, around them. They're having such a hard time already." It's like, you know, he realizes that it sucks and that everyone hates it.
Sure.
And that it's like a punishment, but you know, this is what he does, and that's just the way. Just the way it is.
Well, that's another thing.
So it's like,
is the desired effect is any effect. You know, if you make somebody vomit, then it's good modern art. If you make somebody, you know,
that's the other thing. Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. I forgot about that one. Yeah.
The desired effect becomes the subjective, you know, the subjective goal. You know, how you can make somebody feel gross, basically.
No, you hit on it there. I forgot about that. That is one of their main things. Yes. That there was a reaction of some kind. It doesn't matter what it was. That you've caused a reaction is one of the key things. Yeah. So it can be that it's vomit inducing and everyone hates it, or it doesn't matter. you can start crying and fleeing from it.
Right.
That's a success in their book.
Yes.
Right.
Whereas with traditional art, you are you know, you have been embellished. Your life is better for experiencing it, and everybody knows what's good art. I mean, good traditional art when they come to see, a master painting by Rembrandt or Raphael or this kind of thing. They understand that they're working at like a something that God has winked at, basically. It's the best. It's something that humanity has given, in a way that just can't be spoken for. Well, obviously for, the money laundering, modern art, Frankfurt School ideology influenced stuff of the earliest 20th century and on, apparently. I mean, what form of modernism are we in now? Are we in like triple 3D underwater postmodernism?
That's why I laughed. That's why I always say modernism, because people are like, "Don't you mean postmodernism?" I was like, "No, you just say the first one," because after the fact they tried to draw all the previous movements that were near to it into it. Like they went as far back as Romanticism to try and say that's modernism too, because they were rebelling. But like obviously it's when they started just doing kitty paintings and making cubes and like stupid things just to be, look at me. Yeah. But so then postmodernism was just the first attempt to pretend they were still evolving. I think they just said, "Oh, this is postmodernism now," but they were just doing the same thing. There's no difference. Yeah. So it's like after that they gave up. It's like, okay, but I mean they tried like conceptualism or things like this. Same thing. Like, it's just the same thing.
A blank piece of paper with a dot on
it. The difference? Yeah. All their definitions of their movements are basically just boil down to making art by non-traditional means. So just basically, as long as you're not doing real art or what was considered art before the 20th century, then you can do it. Then you can do whatever you want.
Pretty much.
So that's the criteria. So that's why. So because they enter this world, this mindset, this trap, this maze, and they're traveling around, and they can do well in it. Like you can see, like people often send me examples of good modernists. People doing clever things. Let's say.
Sure.
But it's always like there was that guy that was making the really highly detailed giant sort of facsimiles of people and things that would fill up a gallery. Do you know
Chuck Close?
Is that it? Yeah, I can't remember his name.
The guy with the little squares that would do faces, little squares that make up.
I just remember
faces.
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember seeing photos of like gallery rooms and it'd be like a giant baby or a giant head, like down to really, really high detail.
Oh, no. I don't know who that is. That's cool though.
Well, okay, I'd have to look at it. It was cool what he was doing, but yet it was limited by the fact that you could sense that it was like a gimmick. You know what I mean? Even though all the work and all the intensity and all the obvious goodness about it, he was in that world, and there was a gimmick. It was like, okay, gallery with a giant head. It wasn't like speaking to you in that traditional way that was like an ascension of culture, rooted in deep things, let's say.
Well, the interesting thing is about subversiveness. I mean, a lot of the stuff we love is in fashion subversive. I mean, like metal album covers with like bodacious babes and swords and dragons and shit. I mean, it's a little bit of a perversion of a classical styling. I got a friend that gave me this concept because I was like, I don't know, because he basically says it's pretty much, if it's subversive, it means it's good. That's how that works, In
a modernist sense, you mean? Is that what you mean?
I don't know. I think he was talking more so about that kind of thing. I mean, we took our imaginations to the fullest, and that's how that could also be an element that is pushing in a modernist direction from the classical influence, which Frank Franzetta would probably be the best example.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, that's something I have controversy about, let's say, to a certain degree, in that I'd say, like, when I started the page, traditional Western art and all that, I just posted like classical stuff, totally classical. Personally, though, I was always listening to metal and enjoying things like you're saying, Frank Frazetta and all this. Everyone knows that I like all that kind of thing, or like concept art. Even that, see, all that stuff. so I, to be honest with myself, I had to start posting that and saying, okay, I think personally, even though this is outlandish to many people, that this is not unlinked from the traditional. It's been kind of denigrated, and it was kind of pushed into a sort of limited, kitschy way of sorts.
Sure.
By the nature of the society and where they could go, but they did a good job. And there was kind of an era. Like the criteria for me is that it's, you know, I don't want to get into it without sounding political or anything, but that, how can I say? I believe there was a very fertile period there of, especially in the psychedelic period and shortly after, before the hippies transmorphed into yuppies.
Yes.
There was a good sort of intelligent masculine art of a sorts, which in hindsight is very easy to look back and sort of denigrate or mock as. In fact, most people just think it's juvenile and.
Sure.
You know, although it's making a bit of resurgence just lately, I think. I don't know. Like, we're getting so old. I'm like getting really old, and like, you know, I can't tell I don't know what decade I'm in or what's popular or what's going. I just know that all that stuff kind of died.
Sure.
In the 90s, all that kind of went away, and I think that was like the last gasp of like I don't see hardly any. The only kind of creative world I see since then is I guess you would say some of this online stuff that we're doing, and
sure,
these memes and things. I mean, that's a whole other kind of little world.
Oh, yeah.
Fairly, and there's like, as far as like literature and talk and you know, just chat, you know, it's different. It's a whole other world as well. But in terms of like, we're just talking about art, visual art, let's say, and stuff like that. That was a. So I to me, they're linked. To me, that kind of stuff is like a pagan, you know, ancient traditional impulse inside some of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
The barbarian stuff and the metal.
Oh,
and
I absolutely agree. Genetic memory, what have you.
Religious, quasi-religious in a way, and it's more important and more serious than people give it credit for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree completely.
Well, yeah, that's good. Like, because I thought that would be a hard. I just decided to start saying that. And I thought, okay, everyone's going to attack me for this. But you know, you agree. You know, many people agree. Many people can see it. There's some truth in what I'm saying for sure.
Yeah, I like the idea of genetic memory. That's something that I have studied a little bit. Also, evolutionary conditioning is another thing. How a people came to be, and yeah, I would definitely say people are hearkening to that kind of to something that came before, but also with the ideologies that are now. You know, that's why you would ramp it up and make it a little more wild, a little more. I mean, I'm sure it was wild then, but now, you know, you can have your Vikings fighting like aliens and shit, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they could, if we weren't sort of tipping over the edge into a bona fide like physical dark age.
Yeah,
there's all kinds of amazing culture we could have, but the culture is it doesn't allow this kind of thing. You couldn't like make a movie like Conan the Barbarian today, or even like the original Star Wars. They don't make these creative, imaginative, you know, things for boys or whatever. Like
absolutely not, and we all know why.
yeah, we know why, and we know it's not going to happen. So in the short term, you just got to live your life that way, and get your kicks where you can, I guess, you know.
One thing that I think I've discussed with you that I think will be an interesting thing for artists that are of our interest in things is to move the idea of pop art to incorporate more classically inspired characters. I mean, you know, putting elements of famous sculptors into the modernist, turbine and this kind of thing, and keep them in a way that it is combatant to the modernist aesthetics. I think that will be a way that the critique would have some competition, and that's something that I noticed in LA that really had a lot of rejection when I started to come around artists that were divulging in that manner. And when I started doing it, I got a lot of objection. They said, well, this looks like, you know, master drawings of somebody that's in school or anything like that. It's like, well, what the fuck is the 1,000th Marilyn Monroe portrait going to do, guy? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it could be. You could be on something there. If you could, I don't know. I don't know how you
It's
do how
still in
you.
the frame, it's still in the frame of like shit modernism, but also it's tactical. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
way, to at least start thinking in a maneuver to combat modernism,
yeah.
and what,
Every little bit, every little drip, wears
yeah,
away at the stone. Let's say, right? Every little drip.
yeah, every little drip.
Every drop slowly wears the stone away. That's a Greek proverb or something.
That's
But
cool. I like that. Very
yeah,
neat.
yeah. Anything anybody can do, it always helps. But yeah, so I think we sort of covered that. I don't know if
Sure.
can we explain it more even? I don't know. Like they get into this mindset,
Mm-hmm.
they can't get out. They can see, they can create their idea of what is good and bad, and even to outside normal people, their idea of what's good can be sort of seen to be, as long as the average person has some grasp of that
Mm-hmm.
gimmick is good, and they've presented something in a very extremely clever way that's kind of like overturned your preconceptions, or one of these stupid things they say,
Mm-hmm.
that made you think about something differently. And that's basically what they think and what they love. But it has nothing to do with traditional art or with, as I said, cultural ascension of any
Sure.
kind. It's just you go into it and you can play this game, but you won't go anywhere, and you probably ultimately won't be remembered for anything, because 1,000 years from now, if any still exist, like Michelangelo will still be very valuable, but
Sure.
your installation art of a ball and chain wrapped in cotton will be worth nothing. Or your photo,
Architecture too.
yeah, your blocks that did no, there's no way they'll be around 1,000 years.
Are you familiar with the concept that I think it's a Greek concept. I can't remember the name, but I was just reading about it. Whereas things are made to become aesthetic, beautiful ruins when they are broken down over the
Oh, I
course
think
of
that was more Victorian. Yeah, I know what you mean.
is it
Yeah, it's follies.
Victorian?
Yeah, I believe it was sort of, it was, as far as I know, it was like a English. It was probably all over Europe, in fact, around that time, like maybe pre-Victorian, sort of. I don't know, probably 1700s or something onward for a while. But yeah, they would make these follies that were like, in your backyard, you'd make like an Egyptian pyramid, and it was like intentionally half falling apart, and you would mind, yeah, that kind of thing. I forget the word. Yeah, there's a word for it.
That's a very anti-fragile concept for classical stylings. Is very interesting. How one would.
Well, that shows their devotion to the archaic, let's say, to those concepts that are like that are like ghosts to us now, I'm always reaching for, and I can almost begin to explain or talk about, but it's always hard. It's like our minds are so different now. You can't even it's like a phantom. It's like a ghost. You can almost kind of grab it, but like a lot of getting back to that and grabbing it, sadly, maybe, let's say, has to do with discrimination. I'm just talking about art here.
Yeah,
Being discriminating and saying, okay, Picasso, fine, sure, the Pink Panther and the Cubist cartoons are kind of neat, but like,
right.
just get rid of that, and let's put some standards in here. You have to be discriminate, and even at the expense of, there will always, I mean, you can't do anything without coming at the expense of something. So there'll be some people or things that fall by the wayside if you say, okay, we're going to just have objective beauty values and
Mm-hmm.
try to be like, but like we were. And you might even have a period of like sort of pastiche and difficulty, but eventually, if you have that framework set up, you would be back on the road to ascension and other actual new creative things. Because the modern stuff is, as that's the thing about it, is it's because it's a trap. There's no change. It's been the same for a long time now, and it doesn't go anywhere. You can see that. That's obviously an obvious flaw that you can point out to them now and any time, is that they've been doing it for over 100 years, and there's been no evolution of as you said, there was postmodernism, and then that was just the same shit anyways,
Right.
and nothing. It doesn't change. So that's a sign that it's dead, and a lie is the fact that it doesn't evolve, because everything true and natural evolves and changes.
Yeah, sure. And one thing that is interesting about the modernist ideal, the philosophy that became an art form, is it came right alongside with the industrialization and the invention of photography and video. And so it was from the very beginning used in animation and film techniques. So one of the most abstract animators who would eventually go on to at least inspire Walt Disney was Oscar Fissinger, and he did basically just nothing but shapes that dance to classical music into like the 20s and 30s. And it was interesting stuff. But, you know, like I said, Disney saw that and he said, you know, I'm going to put a talking mouse in there. And, you know,
well, Disney did Fantasia. Fantasia was kind of
inspired off of Oscar Fissinger's work.
Was it? I didn't know
yes.
that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I like Fantasia, most of it. I like,
yeah.
You know, it's got some good stuff in there. But yeah, I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So, you know quite a bit about. So you went from the street art into animation.
I went from animation into the art world. Actually, I was in animation before then. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So why the animation was not paying as much?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a lot of work. It's a ton of. You're like drawing the same thing over and over.
Oh man,
like, I did a brief stint of it myself.
Did you really? Cool.
Oh no, very brief. But it was all computer stuff, so it means nothing to me. But I remember just like it was not great pay because everybody wants to do it. Anybody who's graduated from art school wants to do it, and they'll work for nothing. And these guys,
nothing at all.
You know, it's a lot of work for. I found to be not great pay as well. So maybe that was your experience as well. Maybe if you're like the guy in charge of it and you're the director.
That's what I was. Yeah.
But were you okay? Well, that's.
I was trying to get to it. I started doing animation stuff because I wanted to get into doing short films for film festivals. But at the same time that I was, you know, completing my skill set to be able to make short films is when YouTube happened. So that pretty much just blew that out of the water completely.
Right.
And so what I thought next, because I was in the music scene and I knew lots of musicians and stuff, is like, you know, I'll start making visuals for bands and DJs, right? Yeah. And so that went pretty good. It got good enough to I made some contacts out in LA, and they're like, you need to get out here. We've got some things that we're trying to get done. And so I said, all right, cool. So I go to LA, and I'm animating every night I get home from work and all this kind of stuff until I meet up with some people that really like what I'm doing. And they get me in with studio working for Steve Aoki and Skrillex doing, visual projection mapping, and Jonathan Davis and all these guys. I'm doing visual projection mapping stuff where I'm making animation content for a guy that's, building these screens, what have you, so that we can project upon for bands and DJs. And the money's okay and whatnot, but I'm starting to make some really good contacts. And eventually they had me direct an award show by myself, which was probably like the apex of my entire career in Los Angeles as somewhat, that you could actually see on paper. Okay. I directed an award show. It was basically like this giant money laundering, embezzling operation for whatever the fuck.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. But I got to do the thing. It was cool. I ran the whole show. I did the animations for it. I did all the visual projection mapping. I had a team of people underneath me, and I was like, man, so all right. And I was like young when I did this too. So I was like, man, this is going to be a cool career. I was wrong.
Why? What happened? What?
It was basically, what happened was I don't want to say how, but okay. I came in contact with the 3-dimensional holographic treatment for the Tupac Shakur show. Remember that when they did that in Coachella?
Well, I don't know anything about that now.
All right. Well, anyway, they at Coachella, which is like a live music festival. I think it was in 2000. 2011, maybe, they did a live holographic of rapping Tupac with the Snoop,
like
right?
giant.
No, like life size. I mean, they did a really good job with it.
If they did a giant, like the Emperor in The Emperor Strikes Back or something, that would be something.
Yeah, that would have
Anyways,
been pretty funny. But yeah, so
although him of all people, what's the fucking point? Like, oh, fucking Tupac.
yeah, giant Tupac stomping on people, pretty cool. Anyway,
Genius. Yeah.
So I had this, and I got in touch with a couple studios that I was trying to proposition doing some pretty wild shit. Like I wanted to land like spaceships on stage and have Skrillex walk out of it and do a bunch of other shit, you know. I never got to like proposition this to them because you know there was a guy in front of me that I had to talk to before I could talk to, you know, Steve Aoki's people or any of these people, and they did not want to spring for this at all. And I was pretty much at that moment I was stalemate, and that's was the end of my animation career, really, right there. Because now I've got people that I know in the art world, and they're selling paintings for more than I'm making in a month's time, and I'm just like, beeline, you know.
Yeah. So that was it. So you didn't get to actually do the show? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't get to do any of that stuff. No, they didn't spring for it.
Oh, didn't pay for it. I see.
No, they didn't want it. They did. They're just like, yeah, we were gonna do these other things, and I was like, those other things suck. You know.
I remember probably the best job I had in that world was nothing as like that with big celebrities really, but I was like in you were in America, of course. I was in Vancouver for a long time. I worked at a recording studio that was owned by that guy Randy Bachman. Do you know who that is?
What's he do?
Musician. He did like Taking Care of Business. He was in like
I know Taking Care of Business. BTO, right, boy?
Yeah. He owned it. Yeah. And I was the designer in the recording studio. So the bands would come through and I'd design their CD covers. Like,
oh, that's cool.
Do all their CD shit or whatever.
Yeah.
But I remember it was a good job because they were all just like these old hippies doing all the recording. Because I was into music too, so we would jam and play like afterwards and all that, and it was good fun. Good job.
Yeah.
The mixing guy, of course, was this old hippie who was in some 70s band. What was it called? Little Feet or something like that.
Oh, really?
You know them, yeah?
I do know them. Yeah, good band.
Yeah, he was in that briefly as the singer, I think. They had a few singers. He was one of them. But he was constantly baked. He was so baked out of his mind all day long. Like, and every now and again, I'd smoke some with him, but I'd just be completely I'd be so obliterated I couldn't work.
Sure.
I remember one time I did a CD cover with this guy. He was like the Scottish guy. He sang like Bon Jovi or something.
Sure.
And it had to go out the next day. And of course, I was smoking weed. We were all smoking weed. And I was so baked, like I misspelled almost the entire. And I forgot to spell check. I wrote up his, thank yous in the back of the CD or whatever, and the whole thing was completely misspelled. It was like dedicated to his dead brother, so and so, and like got his name like misspelled. Everything was spelling mistake. The whole thing was, and it printed like 10,000 copies that way. It was like, oh,
hell yeah,
yeah. Even that Scottish guy was kind of laughing about it because he was baked too. He was like, yeah, we were pretty baked.
Hey, at least, yeah. I mean, if you're in it together, hell.
There was some guys that came through there that got famous later, like what was that guy? Michael Bublé, that cheesy guy?
Michael, that sounds familiar.
Bublé.
Was he like the opera?
He's trying to be like a Frank Sinatra kind of guy. He was there before he got famous. I think I made a poster for him or something.
Yeah.
Whatever. That was a long time. Well, that was a good job. I mean, it was good.
Yeah.
Relaxing. I did some good death metal covers. There was some death metal bands. Yeah, I remember. And like, so they'd want like something really grotesque. Some guys brought in like a bunch of cutouts from these fatty pornography magazines, and I had to like piece them all together to make like just this flesh thing.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But whatever. I mean, these are the old times. But yeah, so I'm hearing that buzzy. It's gone again. What was I gonna say? So the world of animation. Let's finish with what would you say about it in its current state and the hows and whys of its current state?
Oh, is there? I mean, God, noodly armed Cal Arts, man. I don't, I have no idea what they're doing. I used to be really up on experimental animation and this industry and whatnot. I mean, there's some really good stop motion still being made.
Is there?
Especially, yeah, there is. And
For what? For TV or for?
I think for the short film circuit, I know that there was Madame Tootly Pootly that came out from the film boards of Canada, and that was probably about what was it, 15 years ago. But they spent like 10 years making that film, and it's gorgeous, very very nice.
Oh,
And
wow,
there's a
I don't
new
know.
film. Say again.
I don't know it. I'll have to look it up. I never heard of it.
There's a new film that they're coming out that said that they've been working on for 17 years, and it's a stop motion from Eastern Europe. That should be really interesting. But yeah, I mean, stop motion, there's still really great stuff being done with stop motion. If you
I'm
haven't
glad
seen
people are keeping it alive, because that was always, I always loved it. I always thought it was like the best. It was so sad when that got so replaced with CGI. I don't care that it looks fake or any of that. It just, you can feel the love in it. You can feel
there's dedication. I mean, there's literally years worth of dedication in every film, pretty much. Have you ever heard of Alexander Petrov? He is an amazing. Yeah, that stuff's just mind-blowingly beautiful. The oil painting animations, that stuff's great.
I don't know if I've seen that oil painting animation.
Oh yeah,
Like he would paint in oils each frame. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. It's
really?
Absolutely. That
would take a million years,
dude.
The drawing time alone would take a million years.
It's out of this world stuff. It's really gorgeous.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure he has a studio doing it, but I know he used to do it. But yeah, that stuff's really amazing. And then just I don't know who's all still making things. I know Jerry Barta made this film, The Pied Piper of Hamelin, which is a masterpiece if you've ever seen that. But stop motion, stop motion is one of my favorite art forms. It's like you said, it has the care and the obviously the passion is there. And so people put really good ideas in the stop motion. That's what I've noticed. I mean, you're going to be sitting for 17 fucking years making an animation. It's going to be your goddamn magnum opus, So
that's a long time.
Like Jans Vonkmeyer. Have you ever seen his stuff?
It's familiar, the name, but I can't think of it.
Really amazing work. Dimensions of Dialogue is a really masterful piece. That's another thing is about the Eastern European stop motion is they're doing a lot of political criticism that without words. Very interesting stuff. I know that
which we would appreciate. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yes.
Okay.
There's great stuff. I mean, it's especially Yuri Trinka, who was one of the masters of stop motion, made a film, I think in the 60s, called The Hand, and he was almost put to death for it because the critique was not as metaphorical as he thought it was. And
wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Really amazing stuff. And cool. most of that world has a lot of socio-political commentary that's baked into the cake.
Right. Yeah.
Very interesting.
See, I didn't know this. I didn't know. You know better than me about stuff like that that's still going on. I just know from whatever media have available currently, which is maybe basically Twitter or the TV occasionally, and all I see is anime or Steven Universe or one of these horrible things.
Yeah, I don't know much about either of those things. I know there's some interesting animes. It's not my forte.
Yeah, they're okay. I have nothing against animes, but
I don't have
every other Twitter guy is an anime obsessed. I don't know how this happened. How did they get so into it? What about the animation we used to grow? Why is that vanished?
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, hand drawn stuff. There's such a there's such an illustriousness of it, and especially with Disney, early Disney stuff. It's just really beautiful, and the movement. The way in which they spent so much time with rotoscope and things to make it look real and make it look stretch the realness, but in an aesthetic and beautiful manner. I mean, Snow White is a masterpiece, and then a lot of Sleeping Beauty, and a lot of these. A lot of the animations of that time are really, really great stuff. And like I said, now one thing that's really interesting about animation, and I don't know if because of how much time it takes to do these things, the industries will take a lot of risks in their infancy. Like Disney, Disney basically put all his coins in the bucket to make Snow White, like he took his, Steamboat Willie and all that shit, and then put that forth to make Snow White. And if Snow White would have failed, that would have been drastic for the animation industry. Much like John Lasseter with 3D animation. If you watch a movie like Jurassic Park, it's very interesting because the CGI in that movie is still better than most CGI coming out today. And the reason
why is that? Why is that? How do they manage that? You're right. Yeah, it is. Why? How is that the case? Just
because they were scared.
And so they worked so hard on it.
They worked real hella hard on it because that was the movie, that was the animation, the film that was going to make or break 3D animation.
Right. They made it, but it was so impossible of a bar to surpass or even meet again that everything else has been shit ever since.
Pretty much, man. Yeah. It's pretty bizarre. Not a lot of people know that. It's a very interesting thing.
Yeah. Huh, I know. I didn't know that. Like there's some, like I said, you're talking about Steven Universe. Like you can see, so, like in terms of cartoons, like most like Western kids will see. Like I know, like I've seen these things. Like what are the ones? Like Regular Show was actually pretty good. It wasn't great animation though. It was nothing animation wise particularly amazing about it. But it was like at least a good show to watch. There was another one, Adventure Time, which was good at first.
Sure.
But then it got kind of political and led to these other things, which these, like I said, Steven Universe type things, which they're very political and they're.
Sure.
But that was, I think that one might be one of the origins of this cartoony noodle arm thing that we're seeing everywhere all the time now, where everything is that.
Right.
Where it's like everything looks like it's drawn by a child, basically, or like that style. It's sort of
well, I mean, it goes back to the tropes. I mean, if you want to have an animated show on Cartoon Network, you better noodly arm boy, or you're just not getting in at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that in jest, but I'm not. I mean, that's the way it is. Do what we do, or you just don't exist. Sorry.
Right. So they hold the key to the standards. They hold the keys for.
Yeah, I mean that was the entire goal to begin with of the, it's to be the head of the hierarchy. I say what is passable content, what gets into the zeitgeist of the the normal man, the working class, this kind of thing. That's what was important to begin with. That's why it all went down the way it did. That's why it's not about talent. That's why it's about money, and that's why it's about these things, System of control.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we covered everything pretty good. What do you think? Anything you want to say about it? Any of that for you?
No, I pretty much, follow me on Twitter at Pebble Sludge, and that's about all I got.
No, that was good. I didn't know. You definitely know much more about animation than me, so maybe we could talk about that again sometime on some from other angle. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we covered the modernism thing the way I wanted to, but it's good enough anyways. To give it.
Well, go ahead. Say I got nothing.
No. I don't think it's fast. You'd have to. I mean, we did pretty good. I mean, we did not bad. Like trying to maybe if any layman is actually interested in trying to know how their minds work and what they think is good and bad.
Sure.
Not that most people probably don't even care, but anyways.
No, they don't. But we do. We're the intelligentsia, We're the
outsiders that are intelligentsia. Well, we're not. We may not be geniuses, but we're not dishonest people. Let's say that. We're not.
Yeah, there you go. That's
we're not trapped in being fake and for this or that reason. We can just speak our minds. So
I'll be fake if I want to, like, you know, control something.
Yeah, because you're the shrewd, conniving guy, the strategist.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we'll stop it there, and I'll talk to you again later. Yeah.
Yep. Always a pleasure, bub.
Yeah. Same to you. See it.